Let's talk about migration. I mean, instead of, government's failure to deal with anything and talking about themselves as per usual, let's talk about what is going on, not just in Epping Forest, but what's going on the beaches of Calais as well. Sarah White joins us. She's the Epping Forest resident and also one of the many campaigners against the asylum seekers being housed in the Bell Hotel. Of course, that was the scene that sparked those protests from the summer after a 14-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by an asylum seeker. Good morning to you, Sarah.
Morning, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. We had that announcement yesterday. We talked about it on the show briefly yesterday, that a judge in the High Court had ruled that, yes, the Bell Hotel can continue to house asylum seekers, even though local residents don't want them to, and indeed the local council's fighting. And we've had the bizarre situation of the Home Office fighting to keep the hotel open to asylum seekers, even though their official policy is to get asylum seekers out of hotels. What do you make of it all?
Well, I just think the whole process has just been quite insulting, because really we knew from the beginning this was never going to, we was never going to win. It was never going to go in our favour, because the moment they shut the Bell Hotel down, then all of a sudden what happens to all the other hotels? What happens to all of the men that are in them hotels? Where are they going to put them? We don't want them in the hotels in our community. We don't want them in HMOs. Yeah. We don't want them put in social housing. So where does the Home Office expect them to go when they're saying they're going to have all of these hotels disused by 2029? They're not talking about the people that are in them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And of course we did have the absurd situation of the man who'd actually, well, again, found guilty, Hadush Gerberslasie, the Ethiopian asylum seeker, found guilty of not just assaulting a 14-year-old girl in her school uniform. Oh, was she over 16 or over 18? No, she was in a school uniform. And also a woman who sort of, came in to sort of help her. And then him being released by accident, a 2-day manhunt, for goodness sake. And then finally caught and then deported. I mean, the whole thing has been a farce.
Yeah, it has been. And you know what? No one took a moment to think about how that affected that family of the young girl that was sexually assaulted, because it's just the whole process from start to finish. The way he was arrested like, oh, come on, it's okay, don't worry, don't get upset, everything will be fine. Then he's been put in prison, gets a pathetic sentence of 12 months and only serves 4 months of that, and then is let out and then given £500 to keep his mouth shut. That's a whole year's wages where he's from. It's utterly disgusting, and our government are to blame for all of this, because they are the ones that are allowing these men to come here. They're giving them benefits left, right and centre, and then we're the ones that are left footing the bill.
And not just footing the bill, because it's not just about the cost, it's about safety, and that is the issue. You, along with many other campaigners, and we've spoken to Orla Minahan, as well, who's been mums, aunts, sisters, grandmothers, daughters, worried about safety, because again and again and again, this thing that never happens keeps happening, where young women and girls are being sexually harassed, even raped. They've got numerous other cases, some, some allegations, some going through the courts, some already convicted, and this is happening again and again and again and again, and people don't want the risk.
And we don't feel safe. And it is true, we don't feel safe. And that is the most crucial thing, is safety. Yeah. It is a fundamental right of this country. Well, I'm in Poland right now, but it's a fundamental right of the UK.
By the way, the Poles don't put up with any of this nonsense.
No, they don't. And you know what? I walked around the other night. It was very late. I was walking down all sorts of streets, walking back to the hotel. Not one point did I feel unsafe. And it's so clean. It's just refreshing to be somewhere where you actually feel safe. And I went to their Independence Day yesterday, and wow, what a crowd. It's something to be said, and we've got a lot to learn from the Poles.
Well, I do think we really do. But you say it's the government's fault. Where do you put the blame in terms of the French government, though? Because the French police now, despite getting £750 million of yours and my money as well, they're apparently preventing fewer migrants from crossing the Channel since Keir Starmer struck that deal with his big mate, Emmanuel Macron, to crack down on small boats. Remember, he was going to smash the gangs. Just over a quarter of migrants' attempts, so 28% to cross the Channel, are being stopped by the French police. I mean, look, like they know about all the attempts, but as we know, a lot of the time they just stand around and watch them, and then they'd watch them go into the, to the international waters and the British waters. And they go, there you go, your problem, not our problem. How much do you blame them?
Well, let's face it, why would the French want them there? So they're quite happy for them to come over to us, so they're not going to stop them. We know what France really thinks about us. There's a long history between the French and the English, and they're just being given this money to do nothing. And we say about Keir Starmer smashing the gangs, he couldn't smash MASH. So, you know, he's a pathetic excuse of a man. At the end of the day, all we have to do is stop the benefits, and we could patrol our own borders instead of wasting money having police outside hotels on a weekly basis.
Where do you want these people to go, though? Because one of my concerns about getting people out of hotels, but okay, there's a big cost. I think it's £145 a night on average. I mean, I've stayed at hotels for weddings paying less than that. I don't know why they're paying that much for them. Versus £35 on average if they're in sort of basically a bed sit, a house of multiple occupancy. But the reality is, they want to close the hotels because they're focuses of local protests, like in Epping. And if you put them in, like, couple in this house, one over there, four over there, they're still there. They're still in the community. They're still here illegally. We're still paying for them, but we don't actually know exactly who they are. And there's not going to be such a big focus where, one man's convicted, another man accused of sex crimes from one particular hotel. So they want to basically get the problem off the front pages, don't they?
That's exactly what they want to do. And if I had the choice between them being dispersed into our community or staying in these hotels, I'd pick the hotels.
Me too.
However, at the end of the day, we built the Nightingale clinics rather quickly during COVID. Why aren't detention centres being built? They should all be put in there. Then they can be processed, and then we'll know exactly where they're from, and then they can be deported. It's not that difficult. But for some reason, our government are so incompetent of doing anything. So why on earth would they put these asylum seekers in a place to keep us safe?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality. This is what the vast majority of people wanted. It's not inhumane, it's not uncivilised, but at the end of the day, these people, after a few months living in that accommodation, perfectly humane accommodation, good enough for our serving soldiers, a lot of that accommodation, by the way.
Well,
they will want to go home.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Julia, but we talk about our soldiers. Look at the veterans, the thousands that are left on our streets, homeless, not cared about. I'm sure they'd like to be put up in a hotel and given free meals a day. Yeah,
exactly. We were able to do it during lockdown, were we not? Can I ask you just finally also, this is about something that's happened in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council. Peter Cooper, a Labour member of the Liberal Democrat-run council, basically quoted Vladimir Lenin as migrant hotel protesters and were denounced as far right. He referred to the leader of the Russian Revolution as the authority condemned demonstrators. And basically, we've had this again and again and again. He says, Lenin said the lumpen proletariat will be organised against themselves for the benefit of the ruling class. That is what we are seeing today. And I mean, you're far right. The lumpen proletariat, you're basically scum and bigots because you're protesting against having undocumented illegal migrants living in a hotel at the end of your street.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you see Liam Tufts interviewed a counter-protester down in Crowborough the other day, and he said to him, how would you feel if one of these men were to rape your daughter? What would you think about that? And he said, well, I wouldn't blame them because they are refugees.
What?
He said, you can't blame all refugees. Well, he said, one is too many. So, this is the mentality of these people, and they call us far right, racist, fascist, thugs. And at the end of the day, all of them words have lost all meaning, like all sense of the meaning. And I don't care. And it's quite sad times to actually not care that you're called a racist, because I'm not a racist, but just because they say something doesn't make it true. And I actually believe that they're the racists. Yeah, I want to put it back on them.
Well, they affect a lower expectation of people because they're from abroad. Sarah White, you've been a fantastic campaigner on this issue. I so appreciate you taking the time to join us. She's an Epping Forest resident, also a campaigner on that issue. We'll kind of close the Bell Hotel in Epping. Thank you for joining us.